Hey everyone! Thank you so much for joining me today as I am super excited about a fun vlog. Now, most people look at a wheelchair as a negative thing. I definitely thought that before my accident and especially after my accident. But in time, would realize that I could still have a quality life sitting in this wheelchair. And so it took time, but I have learned over the years that there are actually perks to being in a wheelchair. And I even often joke with my caregivers and my friends that they might want to consider paralysis, as it actually has some bonuses that many people do not know about. Now, I will hear my caregivers or even friends talking about their shoes getting dirty or having pain in their arm from getting a shot. And my common words are, just saying, you might want to consider paralysis or being in a wheelchair because those are things that I do not have to deal with. So, for today's vlog, I thought that I would share the top 10 perks of being in a wheelchair. Crazy enough, there are actually more than 10, but these are my top 10, my favorites. So, drum roll please. The top 10 perks of being in a wheelchair or having paralysis. Number 10, handicap parking. Now, I did hesitate on this one because sometimes this is a frustration, as everyone and their grandma seems to have a handicap parking permit these days. So I'm putting this at the very end, at the very first one, but there are perks to it. And I do have to say, I am going to do a shameless plug here and tell you to never use handicap parking unless you need it. And never park in the crosshatches next to a handicap spot. There, my rant is over. But anyways, handicap parking does help a lot. It allows space for my ramp to come out so I can go about my daily life and visit many places. Now, I do have a joke. My friend Ashley, who's a paraplegic, she's pretty funny. She often talks about how people tell her that her husband is so special for marrying her. And I just love her response as she says, "Are you kidding me? Russ married me for the perk of handicap parking." So obviously she's kidding about that, but it definitely has its bonuses and plus sides. Number 9 of perks of being in a wheelchair are discounts at zoos and events. Now, I never knew this, but as I've traveled over the years, I've actually found that zoos, parks, and even Disney World offers special perks to people in wheelchairs. When my nieces were young, we went to Disney World, and I found out when I got there that I could get a free fast pass because of my wheelchair. We were completely able to skip the lines and be able to see so much more because of my wheelchair. But it wasn't just Disney World. It's actually been many other places that offer perks. Mount Rushmore, Yellowstone National Park, and even a few zoos that we have visited that have a discounted ticket and other things for people with disabilities. So that is number 9. Number 8 of perks of being in a wheelchair are caregivers who do my hair, that I literally get to roll out of bed and they help me get ready. So I am very fortunate to have caregivers who are good at doing hair. I was actually blessed with a cosmetologist who worked for me for almost 12 years. She recently left as she had a baby, but that was a huge blessing. My hair always looked good, still looks good, because I was nervous with her leaving. But my other caregivers have definitely stepped up to the game. They learned quick and are doing a great job with styling my hair. Because one of the most common questions that I get at my speaking engagements is, does Doug do your hair? And I really do bust out laughing. I'm like, no way. He's tried, but he is definitely not gifted in the hairstyling department. So I have my caregivers that do that for me. And so when I tell people that I have someone else who styles my hair, I've actually had people tell me that they're jealous. They're like, can I have a caregiver come in and do my hair? So yes, I'm pretty spoiled with this. Number 7 perk of being in a wheelchair is this is kind of funny, but I really have to do no housework. Therefore, my nails never chip. Now, a definite perk of being in this wheelchair is that I do not have to do any cleaning, dishes, or chores. Now, I was never a fan of doing any of that before the accident, and I really did a lot of it when I was growing up. So I definitely see this as a perk. I'm very blessed to have Doug, who does most of it. My caregivers also help. And we have cleaning people that come in every 2 weeks who do the deep cleaning. But I don't ever miss doing these housework items. And this way, my nails always look nice too. So that is perk number 7. Number 6 kind of ties in with number 5, but no arguments with Doug on who's doing what. Now, I often hear my friends and others complain about how they fight with their spouse, roommates, or significant others on who's doing what chores. Doug and I never have that fight, as he knows that I can't help him. So he just graciously does these things without complaining. Now, like I said in number 5, I do have my caregivers help him when possible, but it's certainly something that we never fight about. Number 5, I don't have to try on clothes. I just buy them a little big and tuck them in. Now, before my accident, I always hated trying on clothes in dressing rooms. And I was soon to find out after my accident the perk of ordering clothes online. I could no longer try on clothes in the malls. And I would see that malls are also difficult as each store stocks the stores to the max and can be hard to get around. But now I rarely go to a mall, and I love it because I have certain stores that I buy my clothes. American Eagle, Alloy for my tall pants and jeans, and a lot of Amazon. But I know what size to order, and I usually pick a size that's a size larger or 2 than I need, and my caregivers can just tuck it in, and I'm ready to go. So another perk. Now, number 4, I can't feel needles or pain. Now, I've always had awful veins, awful. And so getting my blood drawn, especially before the accident, has always been very painful to the point of where I actually absolutely hate needles. It's quite embarrassing how I acted over the years when it came to needing to get my blood drawn until I had my accident. At first, they drew blood from my arms and pretty much wrecked every vein that I had. But then a nurse said, "Why don't they draw blood out of your feet?" Well, from here on out, I have had almost all of my blood draws, either from my feet or my hands, where I have very little feeling, especially on the back side of my hands. And so that is so nice because I can't feel the needle. Now, when I get a shot, they give it to me in my leg. Don't feel a thing. Definitely a perk of paralysis. Number 3, my shoes never get old. Now, I've been telling this to people for years, but honestly, this is a very cool perk. I have shoes in my closet. I'm even wearing my oldest pair of Uggs today that I've had for like 9-10 years, and they look brand new. I honestly love how long I can have my shoes. And then another perk of that is that when I get tired of them, I can donate them. And it's a blessing to give someone shoes that are barely worn. So that's perk number 3. Number 2 of perks being in a wheelchair is on road trips, I never get antsy or have the need to stretch my legs. Now, before I met Doug, I usually traveled by airplane because growing up, I was very prone to motion sickness in the car, and so I really did not like traveling that way. Plus, I always got really antsy being cooped up in the car and was usually the first of my siblings to say, "Are we there yet?" Parents would get annoyed. So, since marrying Doug, he has shown me the perks of driving to our engagements, and so we spend a lot of time in the van. We actually put 15,000 on our miles on our van this fall. And usually after a couple hours of being in the van, Doug and my caregiver will stop to get out and stretch their legs as they're sore, and they're like, "Oh, I need to get out, I need to stretch." I don't ever get that feeling. On our road trips, I stay in the van the entire time. This last fall, we drove to North Dakota, which is almost 12 hours. We drove to Nebraska, that was 14 hours. And I never got antsy. I never even got out of the van. I was comfortable the whole time. So that was number 2. Now, number 1, drumroll, a perk of being in the wheelchair is I get to share my story and inspire others to live their best life. Last, and certainly my favorite perk of being in a wheelchair, is that I get to speak and share what I've learned in my journey. I always thought a wheelchair would be such an awful thing. And now I see all the things that I've learned because of my wheelchair. This wheelchair gave me perspective, taught me gratitude, and allows me to help others. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed my top 10 perks of being in a wheelchair. I hope you got a few laughs too. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel and comment on this video below. Be sure to also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you. See you soon.